Welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to try to reveal more details in the Lion Nebula, so stay tuned. My name is Morten and you are watching Frost Astrophotography. It is in the middle of summer here, and as if the brightness wasn't enough, it is also raining outside, and what is then better to do than revisit old data to see if you can't make a completely new image or, in this case, reveal more details. Without any more delay, let's jump into PixInsight and see what we can do with the Lion Nebula in SHO with synthetic RGB stars. You are looking at my stacked and drizzled master light frames for H-alpha, sulfur 2 and oxygen 3. This is SH2-132 or the Lion Nebula. It is 62 sulfur 2 light frames, 84 hydrogen alpha and 50 oxygen 3, giving me a total integration time of 16.3 hours. This is a reprocessing video, and I'm trying to squeeze more details out of the Lion Nebula. Because I did this image before mastering, or I wouldn't say I am a master, but before started using other stretching methods, and that means that I'm hoping to get more details out of this image today. So the linear processing steps are the same as always for this image. A slight dynamic crop followed by the automated dynamic background extraction for this one, and a linear fit towards the other light frames for the other filters, and then blur exterminator and noise exterminator. Nothing new there. We can just compare the two images if we want a little bit. We can zoom in here and we can see if there is any difference. And of course you can see a difference here because you have a lot less noise in the image to the right here. You have smaller stars, you have a better contrast between this black or darker area in comparison to the lighter area. So I'm really happy with that. We can zoom in here on a more of a star field. But this is no news for you guys. You know that these tools are very good. This area, for example, here is interesting as well. How much details can you squeeze out just by running the standard linear processing tools and steps here? So happy with this one. Moving on to the stretching of the image here. Now these are the stretched light frames. I didn't use any extreme stretching with GHS. I simply used the statistical stretch in together with the IHDR for this one, and that turned out okay, I would say. I slightly adjusted the black points with the histogram transformation after the stretching here to make it a little bit easier to distinguish between the main object and the background. But we can see here in the H-alpha that we have a lot of details going around the main object, which are not visible in my previous version of this image. So it will be interesting to see how this turns out in processing. But I'm already, without having processed this anything yet, I'm already liking the details that I probably will be able to get out of this data here. So we are moving on with the non-linear phase of the reprocessing of the Lion Nebula here. We are in the non-linear phase now. On the screen you can see the original SHO integration of my light frames. This will be very green. It can vary a little bit, of course. You might also, when you are in this position, think about the integration and the levels in the different light frames that you have integrated. It shouldn't be any problem if you have done linear fit and those things earlier in the process, but sometimes you might want to go back and adjust some things and then reintegrate. Before moving on, I always do color masks in this stage because we want to remove the green here, of course. And I've used the color mask script and I have created masks for red and blue as well as cyan and yellow. And that is normally my first step after removing the green, of course, to try to get the colors the way I want them. And then it's a matter of fine tuning, of course. It's important that you make the color masks when the image hasn't been manipulated anything yet. That will give you an extraction of the correct colors right now, even though we're going to remove the green before we move forward here. So we have the color masks here. And then I run SCNR as usual. And you can see here the difference on the image to the right here. I run SCNR. I will do it for you. You just open up SCNR here. And then you want to remove a certain amount. I usually remove 80% of the green from the image in the normal mode. Then I also invert the image here and then I remove 100% of the green there. And that will remove any magenta colors. That could be magenta on the stars or magenta somewhere in the nebulosity or yeah. So now you can see that we have identical images here to the left and right. I will simply just back this up into the original state and I will take this image over here. Now in the next image here, I've started manipulating the colors. As you can see here, I have a much bluer blue area and the yellowish, reddish areas are more golden looking. Now this is of course a look many people go for when you're making SHO images. So how do you get there? You have a lot of different tools. You could use simple curves transformation first, then you have a lot of other color correcting options in PixInsight. I will show you just to demonstrate just with the blue here. We are going to add this as a mask on my image. You can see that we are protecting here the areas that are not blue. I will go up to mask and disable show mask so we can see what we are doing. And then I will open up curves transformation here for you. And I will demonstrate with the preview window. And you can select blue here and you can start to manipulate this blue area here. You can see that, oh, we make it really, really blue if we touch this too much. We don't want to do that, so we are just increasing the blue a little bit. At the same time, if we don't want to disturb the balance of the image here, we might want to decrease the red and green. And now you can see that we are way much too blue, so we don't want that. Sometimes it's enough to just simply alter the saturation and vibrance of the image here. So we can select the saturation option and you can increase that, and then you can see that, oh, this is really doing a little bit on the image there, and we can select the vibrance and we can turn that up a little bit. Now we can toggle between the modified mode and original mode, and you can see that we haven't altered much for the blue except for increasing the saturation and vibrance, and that is maybe what we are looking for in this image, just those two components a little bit. You have to experiment with this, of course, to get to where you want it. And when it comes to the other colors later, you're simply removing this mask, and then you can apply the cyan mask, and you can alter the cyan areas, and those you might want to make a little more bluish, depending on your own preference, of course. And then you move on with the red areas and the yellow areas here. And then you end up with, hopefully, an image with a color correction that is to your liking. After the color correction here, I ran through some sharpening. And you want to be gentle with the sharpening here. You don't want to overdo it. You can see if we compare these two that I've slightly sharpened these areas. So take it easy with the sharpening here. You don't want to make it too sharp. We're also going to do more sharpening later when we are adding a synthetic luminance to this image. I do some noise reduction if needed. So sometimes I use TGV denoise, but you can also run through noise exterminator again. You don't have a ton of noise in this image, I would say. You will see a very slight improvement in noise here. Maybe you can't see that through the compression algorithms on YouTube, but you have a slight improvement, I would say. Now it is time to add a synthetic luminance, and the point of doing that is to add contrast and details and more sharpening in the image here. In my SHO processing guide, I think I use the H-alpha, but you can also extract luminance of your SHO image and then process that one to add it back to the image here. And on the synthetic luminance, I add things like local histogram transformation and some extra sharpening, and that really makes a difference. If we look at this area again here and compare it to the last one, you can see that we have added a lot of contrast here in this image, and we added even more sharpening to these areas. You have to be careful though, because you can really screw up your image as well, and you might also need to adjust the amount of the synthetic luminance that you are adding back into your picture. One word of caution also: if you are using your H-alpha as the synthetic luminance, you might disrupt the whole color balance of your image. So keep that in mind and keep adjusting before adding it back. This could be borderline, I would say, but I really like the increased contrast that you get in the image. I also added the dark structure enhancement just for a few areas here with dark structures. It adds a little bit more to the image, I would say. In this image, I kept the settings down to a minimum. I added maybe 25% of the strength I normally use, just not to overwhelm the image in general. After the dark structure enhance, it was time for some final color adjustments. I didn't do much, as you can see, but I actually made the blue areas just a little bit more blue, because they were looking a little bit pale here, I think, especially the cyan areas. So added some more blue to the cyan areas, and I also think I increased the saturation a little bit more here. Final comparison here in the non-linear phase. You have the original integrated image to the left and the processed image to the right. This is, of course, without the stars so far. We are going to make and add those. So for this image, I made synthetic RGB stars. I took my H-alpha, sulfur 2 and oxygen 3 stars. This is the H-alpha stars. If I screen transfer those, you will see that, oh, this is not so great here. So I stretched these with generalized hyperbolic stretch, as I normally do for the stars here. And you can do that by opening up a preview, increasing the local intensity to 15 right away. You don't set any symmetry point for star stretching here. And then you can simply open up, increase the stretch factor here until you get to a point where you like the stars. Some people like more stars, some people like less stars. A trick you can use here is to zoom in on a bright star in the image here. And then you can stretch until you are satisfied with that. If you're ending up like this, it will be overblown, but you still might want to have a little bit of star there. So you could go as high as this one, but maybe it is enough to stretch it maybe to this point or something. And when you're finished with that, you can close the preview and you simply apply this stretch to all of your 3 images, stretching them equally, and then you can add them together. Now keep in mind, this is narrowband. If you're working with broadband RGB stars, you do not want to stretch those individually. You will get a very funky color combination. So you definitely want to integrate your stars before stretching. For narrowband and SHO, you can individually stretch and then integrate your stars together. I integrated my SHO stars, of course, with a formula in pixel math here. And you utilize parts of different filters trying to get the blend of SHO as close to the true color of the stars as possible. With this formula here, you can pause this video and then write the formula down if you want to. When that is integrated, I take this and I run through my image solver, solving this image to the night sky. And then, of course, you run the spectrophotometric color calibration on it. And that will give you synthetic RGB stars with colors that are true, I would say then. So I really like this method. It gives a nice color stars here without having to take RGB colors. The final step is, of course, to integrate your newly processed starless image with your synthetic RGB stars. And we're taking the trusted old pixel math here with this formula. Integrating a screen integration for these two. You simply execute it and then you will get your newly SHO with synthetic RGB stars. And I did some final adjustments, giving you or me this image here. The processed SH2-132 Lion Nebula in SHO with synthetic RGB stars. And now it is going to be very interesting to see how does this compare to the last image that I did in 2024. So we're going to open up that one and we are going to compare. And yes, I really see a big difference here. I did not use the same processing tools and skills, and primarily it is the stretching, I would say. The stretching is much different. On the image to the right here, I lost a lot of details, and on the image to the left, I preserved and revealed a lot more details in this image. I'm fairly happy with this, or really happy I would say. This is the preferred processing method for me today, trying to reveal as much information as possible, I would say. Enjoy this image and we will hopefully process more images soon. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already doing so. Be on the lookout for some more observatory upgrade videos, as I'm doing some maintenance and continuing to upgrade my observatory, making it ready for the 25-26 season. If you still have darkness where you are right now, I wish you have clear skies.